And it is not that 7 interrupts or exception will change the mode to 7 different modes. The processor mode will not be changed. Okay, only to change the mode from user to the other 5 modes, these 7 interrupts are being used. Okay, so what are those 7 interrupts? We'll see. One is the reset interrupt, prefetch abort, data abort, software interrupt, undefined that is exception. Other one is FIQ and IRQ. So these are in total 7 interrupts or exceptions. So reset and software interrupt instruction, SWI. So anyway, these topics will again discuss once we go to exceptions and interrupts in ARM. Okay, so reset and SWI instruction, these two are going to change the processor mode to supervisor mode. So whenever we apply the power to the processor core, or whenever SWI instruction is executed, the processor mode changes to supervisor mode. And prefetch and abort, data abort, prefetch abort and data abort, they are with respect to the abort mode. So whenever there is an unsuccessful access to an instruction or unsuccessful access to the data, so that means if it is not if permitted to access the data or instruction, and if you attempt to do that, then in that case the processor mode changes to abort mode. So one more is undefined. So that means the instruction which is not implemented in that ARM core, if that is being encountered, in that case the processor mode changes to undefined. The other two are with respect to interrupts, hardware interrupts, that is FIQ and IRQ. Whenever that interrupt occurs, in that case, the processor mode changes to fast interrupt request mode, or if it were to be normal interrupt, it changes the mode to interrupt request mode. So in total, remember, there are 7 processor modes and there are 7 interrupts or exceptions. The 7 interrupts or exceptions are reset, prefetch abort, data abort, SWI, which stands for software interrupt, undefined, FIQ, that is fast interrupt request, and interrupt request. So these are in total 7 modes. And these 7 exceptions are to change the processor mode to 5 privilege modes, that is supervisor, undefined, fast interrupt request, okay, and abort. So these are the 5 modes which requires interrupts or exceptions. So reset and SWI, it is for supervisor mode. Prefetch abort and data abort for abort mode. Undefined instruction will switch over the mode to undefined mode. Fast interrupt request will switch over the mode to fast interrupt request mode, and IRQ interrupt will change the processor mode to interrupt request mode. So this is what you need to remember. And one more important thing is, whenever an exception or interrupt occurs, not only interrupt service routine is executed to handle that interrupt. In addition to this, the processor mode will be changed in ARM. Okay, and once the processor mode changes, there will be physically new registers which replace the user register. So some new registers will be replacing the user mode registers, and they are called as bank registers. So which are all the bank registers that comes into picture in each of the privileged processor modes that we have already discussed with that neat diagram. So if it is asked to explain the register model of ARM, or entire register set of ARM, or programmer's model of ARM, so this is what the diagram you need to explain. So the bank registers you have to explain, in total 37 registers. Okay. So this is what we had discussed in the previous class. Now we shall move on to the next topic, that is pipeline. And you know that what actually you mean by pipeline. So this is the mechanism that RISC processor use to execute the instruction. Okay. So any RISC processor you take, they since the instruction length is fixed and each instruction will be executed in one cycle, all the RISC processors, they are going to make use of this pipeline concept. Now, what do you mean by pipelining? It is actually the processing of the instruction we are going to divide into smaller units. Okay, and we are going to overlap these instruction execution. So this is called as pipelining. So this will speed up the execution. So how actually it speeds up the execution means it is overlapped instruction execution. So for each instruction we are say for example, if you consider ARM 7 microcontroller, in that case it is going to make use of 3-stage pipeline. That is, for each instruction, these are the 3 stages it has to cross. That is, fetch stage, then decode stage, and execute stage. Each instruction will be undergoing these stages. So fetch, decode, and execute. But these stages will be overlap. That is called as pipelining. So overlap instruction execution. So we are going to fetch the next instruction while other instructions are being decoded and executed. So this is what pipelining means. So what do you mean by pipelining, and what is the advantage of pipelining? So pipelining is going to improve the speed of execution. So it will be increased. And the what you mean by pipelining is fetching the next instruction while other instructions are being decoded and executed. So that is the meaning of pipelining. Okay, now what we are going to see is, so we have seen what pipelining means, and it speeds up the execution, and ARM processors are going to make use of different pipeline concept. That means different stage pipelines they are going to make use of. A few we are going to list out and we'll be discussing with simple example. ARM7 microcontrollers pipelining concept. Okay, that with example we are going to see. So now we shall see ARM7. As I already told, pipeline design for each ARM family, it is going to differ. Say for example, ARM7, if you consider, it is three-stage pipeline that is considered in ARM7. Okay, it is fetch, decode, and execute. So what you are seeing in this diagram is a three-stage pipeline. So fetch stage, here an instruction is loaded from the memory. So that is the fetch stage, what you are seeing, the instruction fetching, or we are reading an instruction from the memory. So decode stage, where it identifies the instruction to be executed, meaning it finds out what operation is to be performed in that instruction. And execute stages, it is going to process the instruction and it writes back the result to the register. So these are the three stages you are finding in ARM7 microcontroller. So ARM7 microcontroller uses three-stage pipeline: fetch, decode, and execute. So that's what I've specified. So fetch, decode, and execute. Fetching to load the instruction from the memory. Decode, it identifies the instruction to be executed. And execute, it is going to process the instruction and it writes the result back to the register. So now we'll see this illustration, three-stage pipeline, which I'll illustrate with a simple example. So in this diagram, what we are seeing is three instructions in sequence are written. So assume you have written three instructions. One is, first instruction is add instruction, second is the subtract instruction, and third is the compare instruction. And what you are seeing is it is undergoing a three-stage pipeline, that is ARM7 pipeline. Okay, so first, in the first cycle, what happens? It is, you can see, in the first cycle, the processor is fetching add instruction from the memory. So this is what happens in the first cycle. Cycle 1, you are seeing add instruction is being fetched. So what happens in the second cycle is add instruction is being decoded. So while decoding the add instruction, it is going to fetch subtract instruction from the memory. So the processor is fetching subtract instruction from the memory. And in the third cycle, what you are seeing is, while the add instruction is being executed, subtract instruction is being decoded, and compare instruction is being fetched from the memory. So this is, or this procedure, we are going to call it as filling the pipeline. So once the pipeline is filled, then only the execution takes place here. So initially, this is a three instruction sequence we are seeing: add, sub, and compare. First add instruction is fetched, then you are seeing add, while decoding the add instruction, sub instruction is fetched, then while executing the add instruction, that is at this point the pipeline is filled, subtraction instruction is being decoded, and compare instruction is being fetched. Okay, so that is this is how three-stage pipeline works. Okay, and what is the advantage here is it improves the speed of execution. So this is the three-stage pipeline that is used in ARM7 micro family of microcontroller. And how you can justify this is, if you consider normal processors. Okay, so in that case, assume each instruction has to undergo these three process, that is fetch, decode, and execute. So assume some 100 instructions are to be executed. So to execute 100 instructions, so how many cycles are required if it were to be a normal processor? It is non-pipeline processor if it were to be. So in that case, how many cycles it may require? So if first instruction is taken, it is fetched, it is decoded, and it is executed. Next, it goes for fetching the second instruction, and it is decoded and executed. So fetch, decode, execute, fetch, decode, execute. So this process has to be repeated for each of the 100 instructions. So in total, what you can say, that is 100 into 3. So it is 300 cycles required to execute 100 instructions in a normal non-pipelined processes. Okay. Whereas here, if you consider this 3-stage pipeline, where for executing the first instruction, it may take 3 cycles. As you are seeing in this diagram, add instruction is being executed, which takes 3 cycles. But what about for the next instructions? How many cycles it is taking for executing sub instruction? Can you tell? Sub, compare, how many cycles it is taking to execute the rest instructions in ARM? Assume there are 100 instructions to be executed. We are using ARM7 processor. First instruction, to execute that, 3 cycles are required: fetch, decode, and execute. What about further instructions? How many cycles it is taking to execute? Yes? While executing add instruction, what is being performed? Overlapped. Overlapped operation. Sub instruction is already been decoded, right? What happens in the next cycle? Fourth cycle. Sub instruction will be executed, right? One cycle it takes further. Just see, if 100 instructions are to be executed in normal non-pipeline processor, it takes 300 cycles to execute. But if it were to be this pipeline, which is overlapped instruction execution, only for the first instruction it has taken 3 cycles. For rest instruction, it is just execute only. So how actually the process goes on, or how actually this procedure takes place is, in case of ARM7, it is fetch, decode, execute, and further it will be just execute only. So in each cycle, in every cycle, an instruction will be executed. That is in case of ARM7 pipeline. Okay, so that means if 100 instructions are to be executed, in that case, 3 cycles for the first instruction. For rest 99 instructions, just 1 cycle is sufficient. So 99 plus 3, it is just 1 or 2 cycles. 102 cycles are sufficient to execute 100 instructions in case of ARM7. Whereas in case of normal processors which are non-pipeline, so each instruction has to undergo these 3 stages: fetch, decode, execute, again fetch, decode, execute. So it is not overlapped. So that means it is taking 300 cycles to execute. Okay, this is how it is going to speed up the execution. Only for the first instruction. So if the length of the pipeline is increased, to execute the first instruction, it is taking more cycles. So this we call it as system latency. So latency means before the instruction is executed, more number of cycles are required. So latency will be increased as the length of the pipeline increases, but it speeds up the execution. Okay, so this is what you need to remember. So it is the processor will be able to perform the operation at higher frequency as the length of the pipeline will increase. So that means if pipeline length is getting increased, means in each stage, whatever the processing operation need to be performed, so that will be reduced. So which in turn, it is going to increase the operating frequency of the processor, which finally in turn increases the performance of the processor. The only drawback is for the execution of the first instruction, it takes more cycle. More the length of the pipeline, it is taking more cycles to fill the pipeline before it goes for executing the instruction. So this is what you need to remember with respect to the pipeline. And with example, you should know 3-stage pipeline. Only that is there in your syllabus. So ARM9 and ARM10, they are going to use 5-stage and 6-stage pipeline. So with diagram, if we just write that statement, how many stage pipeline that particular family of processor is using, that is sufficient. Okay. So let us just, this is what I've already explained. In the diagram, what we are seeing is the pipeline with simple example. It is a pipeline instruction sequence. 3 instructions in sequence we have considered: add, sub, and compare. Okay. When each instruction is going to take a single cycle to complete after the pipeline is filled. Only after the pipeline is filled, it starts executing the instruction in every cycle. Okay. So 3 instructions are placed into the pipeline. As I already told, in the first cycle, processor fetches the add instruction. In the second cycle, it has fetched subtract instruction and decoded the add instruction. In the third cycle, subtract and add instructions are moved where add instruction will be executed, sub instruction is decoded, and compare instruction is being fed. So that procedure we call it as filling the pipeline. And the pipeline, it allows the processor to execute an instruction every cycle. So once the pipeline is filled, thereafter it will be just one cycle required to execute the instruction. That's the meaning. Okay. So as the length of the pipeline increases, amount of work done at each stage is reduced. If the processing done at each stage is reduced, then obviously the processor is going to attain higher operating frequency, so which in turn increases the performance. Okay. And the drawback, as I told, the latency will also increase since it requires more cycles to fill the pipeline before the processor executes an instruction. Okay. So with respect to pipeline, these points you need to remember. Now coming to ARM9 processor. So this is the 5-stage pipeline used in ARM9 processor. Okay. In addition to fetch, decode, execute, it adds two more stages, that is memory and write stage. So in the memory, it is during the execution, if the data is to be fetched from the memory, in that case, memory stage is used. And once the result is computed, the result is to be written back to the memory, write stage is being used. So this is the 5-stage pipeline that is used in ARM9. This actually increases the instruction throughput. That is, more instructions can be executed in unit time using ARM9, and it is the instruction throughput will be actually increased by 13%. So study says it is around 30% increase in instruction throughput compared to ARM7 in case of ARM9. And the frequency achieved in case of ARM9 is more, and and also this latency is actually will be more. System latency will also be more, as you know that length of the pipeline increases. Then to execute the instruction, so with the first instruction, it will take more cycles. Okay. So coming to ARM10 microcontroller, family of microcontroller, it increases the pipeline length by adding a 6th stage. So you can see fetch, then issue stage is there, decode, execute, memory and write. Okay, no, you need not worry what actually in detail happens in fetch, issue and all. Just know that in addition to fetch, decode, execute, three stages in addition you are having compared to ARM7, that is issue stage, memory stage and write stage in case of ARM10. So ARM7 uses 3-stage pipeline, ARM9 uses 5-stage pipeline, and ARM10 uses 6-stage pipeline. So that means some branch predictions will be taking place before the instruction is being decoded. So that is in fetch, issue stage. If branch instruction is encountered, it has to predict where to branch, so which instruction to be fetched, if it were to be conditional branch or unconditional branch, from which location the instruction is to be fetched. So that means, just remember, some branch predictions algorithms will be executed, so that it is going to predict the next instruction from next location from where the instruction is to be fetched. So that is handled in fetch and issue stage in case of ARM10. So this is additional thing that is added in ARM10 family of microcontrollers compared to the previous family ARM9 and ARM7. That is branch predictions that is added. Okay, and again here ARM10 compared to ARM9, compared to ARM7 microcontroller, the instruction throughput will be increased by around 34%, but it is at a higher latency cost. So since the length of the pipeline is increased, it is taking more cycles to execute an instruction. That is, before an instruction is executed, more cycles are being used. So this is what you can remember with respect to ARM7, ARM9 and ARM10. Okay. So now this completes pipeline, but before winding up pipeline, you need to know the pipeline executing characteristics. There are 5 pipeline executing characteristics. We shall list out one by one. Okay, what we have seen so far is what is pipeline. You know, it improves the speed of execution, and ARM7 uses 3-stage pipeline, ARM9 uses 5-stage pipeline, and ARM10 uses that is 6-stage pipeline. Okay, and the system latency will be increased, but instruction throughput will also be increased in case of the pipeline execution of the instructions. Okay, this is what you need to remember. And what we are going to discuss now is the pipeline executing characteristics. As I mentioned, there are 5 pipeline executing characteristics. So one by one we'll discuss. So the first is The ARM pipeline doesn't process an instruction until it passes completely through the execute stage. Okay, you know that until the pipeline is filled, the instruction will not be executed. So that is one of the characteristics of pipeline. The ARM pipeline doesn't process the processing means doesn't execute the instruction until it passes completely through the execute stage. We have seen in the example already. We have seen ARM7 pipeline, that is 3-stage pipeline it uses, where it has executed an instruction only when fourth instruction is being fetched. Okay, so this is the meaning. So we shall see one example here. So this diagram, what you are seeing is instruction sequence with respect to ARM7 pipeline, and we are assuming some instruction. MSR instruction, it is move. MSR is one of the instruction in ARM. Okay. So what this instruction will do is it transfers move. M stands for move. Okay. One of the source register content will be transferred to the condition code register. There are two condition code registers in ARM. So it may be the status register, that is saved program status register, or that is current program status register. To any of these two register, we can transfer another register content. So say some R0 is having some data. That register content I can transfer to CPSR or SPSR using MSR instruction. So MSR stands for move. S means it is status register. R is normal register. This is the mnemonic that is used to perform that operation. So to transfer a register content to the status register. Okay. Assume this is the instruction sequence you are having. MSR followed by that add instruction, then AND instruction, and finally the sub instruction. And MSR we are using to enable the interrupts. Okay, we are trying to enable the interrupt by writing 0 to the I bit in the CPSR. We want to enable a normal interrupt. How to enable the normal interrupt? You know, in CPSR there is I bit. Okay, 7th bit in the CPSR. This is implemented as I bit. If that bit status is 0, that means the interrupt will be enabled. So external interrupt or external device can interrupt the processor. So how actually we can write 0 to that? Using MSR instruction, that operation is performed. So for that, for enabling the interrupt, MSR instruction is to be executed. So in the first cycle itself, MSR instruction will not be executed. The pipeline has to be filled. So MSR instruction is being fetched, and what you are seeing here, in addition to that, you are seeing the CPSR status. See, I, it is in capital letter, meaning the interrupts are disabled. You know the convention that is used. If it is written in capital letter means it is the status is 1, that bit status is 1. If it is written in lowercase means that bit status is 0. So you know, for interrupt mask bits, if it is written in capital letter means that interrupt is disabled. If its status is 1 means the interrupt is disabled. So here, since MSR instruction is not yet executed, the I and F you are seeing it are disabled. And in the second cycle you are seeing MSR instruction is being decoded, add instruction is being fetched, and this, it is the same status in the CPSR you are seeing. Coming to the third cycle, MSR instruction is going to be executed, add instruction is going to be decoded, and AND instruction is going to be fetched. After MSR instruction is executed, after completion of execution of MSR, that means it is going to fetch the sub instruction in the fourth cycle. When it is going to fetch the sub instruction in the fourth cycle, and when it is going to execute the add instruction, the interrupt, normal interrupt, is being enabled. You can see in lowercase it is written the interrupt bit in the CPSR, it is written in lowercase. That means normal interrupt is enabled. That means once add instruction enters this execute stage, are you getting? Once add instruction enters the execute stage of the pipeline, this IRQ interrupts are enabled. So that is the meaning. So remember, one of the pipeline executing characteristics, ARM pipeline doesn't process the instruction until it passes completely through the execute stage. So once it passes completely through the execute stage, then only it goes for processing the instruction. So as you are seeing in this example, MSR instruction. Okay. So this is one of the characteristic. Coming to the next characteristic. Okay. So in this diagram, what you are seeing is I had already illustrated this using Keel software. I'll also show it once again. Okay. In this figure, we are seeing the usage of the pipeline and the program counter status. So this example shows while executing the current instruction, PC will be 2 instructions ahead. Okay, 2 instructions. You know, each instruction in ARM is 4 byte. 2 instructions ahead means what will be the status of PC while executing the current instruction? While executing LD, say in this, while executing LDR instruction, it has to fetch the third instruction from the memory. That means PC should have this address. So by what value PC will be updated? Is a 3-stage pipeline in ARM7. While executing current instruction, PC will be how many bytes ahead? How many bytes?
8.
8 bytes. Okay, it will be 8 bytes ahead. If it were to be thumb instruction, PC is executing. How many bytes ahead it will be? In ARM7, in 3-stage pipeline, it uses, okay, while executing current instruction, PC will be 8 bytes ahead or 2 instructions ahead, you can say. So similarly, if it were to be thumb instructions, each instruction is of how many bytes? It is 16-bit instructions, right? Thumb instruction set, where the PC will be 4 bytes ahead, right? Since each instruction takes 2 bytes. So this is the second pipeline executing characteristic. In the execute stage, okay, this is just I'm stressing, it is in the execute stage, PC always points to the address of the instruction plus 8 bytes. So whatever is the current address of the instruction which is being executed or which is in the execute stage, so that instruction address plus 8 bytes, that will be the state of the PC. So PC always points to the address of the instruction being executed plus 2 instructions ahead. 2 instructions ahead means plus 8, you can say. So if it were to be thumb instructions it is executing, in that case it is current instruction which is in the execute stage plus 4. So that is in case of thumb instruction. So this is the second pipeline executing characteristics. So the next one, there are 3 more executing characteristics of the pipeline, and that is the execution of branch instruction, okay, or branching by direct modification of the PC. It causes ARM code to flush its pipeline. So this is the case where the pipeline need to be flushed and an instruction need to be fetched from new address. So whenever branch instruction is being executed, assume the pipeline is already filled, okay, and the branch instruction is being executed in the execute state. In that case, if assume some conditional branching you are doing, if the condition is satisfied, then it should not go for executing an instruction which is decoded. It has to go for executing the instruction. It has to fetch a new instruction from the target address. So in this situation, the pipeline need to be flushed off. So it has to clear the pipeline and new instruction has to be fetched into the pipeline. So this happens if it were to be a branch instruction. So this is one more pipeline executing characteristics where you just remember that ARM core is going to flush the pipeline. That is if the branch instruction is encountered. Okay. So next is ARM10 will make use of branch prediction. This I already mentioned. ARM10 uses 6-stage pipeline. It uses some branch prediction, which is going to reduce the effect of pipeline flush by predicting possible branches and loading the new branch address prior to the execution of the instruction. So some branch predictions will be taking place in case of ARM10, so that the amount of pipeline flush, the percentage of pipeline flush will be reduced as far as possible. So that is in case of ARM10. So one last executing characteristic is an instruction in the execute stage will be complete even though after an interrupt has been raised. That you have seen with respect to MSR. So that is MSR instruction is executed and interrupt is enabled. Normal interrupt is to be enabled. So even though it will be enabled once if the pipeline is filled and the instruction is executed. So even though interrupts are raised, the instruction in the execute stage will be completing its execution, and then the processor is going to flush the pipeline and it is going to start filling the pipeline from the ISR instruction. So you know that once an interrupt occurs, it should not execute or continue the normal execution. It has to suspend the execution, and it has to go for executing a special routine which is called as ISR. That means the instructions are to be fetched for execution from the ISR. So that means the pipeline has to be flushed off, and the processor core has to load the new instruction, that is ISR instruction, into the pipeline. So this is what happens whenever an interrupt is raised. Okay. So these are the 5 pipeline executing characteristics. So which are those 5 pipeline executing characteristics? So one is the first one, what we have discussed. Can you just recall and just tell? First one is the ARM pipeline will not be processing the instruction until it passes completely through the execute stage. This is the first characteristics what we discussed. Second one, in the execute stage, the program counter will be pointing to the address. Okay, it will be always pointing to the address of the instruction which is being executed plus 2 instructions ahead. That is 8 bytes. So PC will be updated by 8 bytes while it is executing the current instruction. So then the third one, what we discussed, that means when branch instruction is encountered, ARM core is going to flush the pipeline. And one more, fourth one, ARM10 will use some branch prediction which reduces the effect of pipeline flush. And the last one is whenever an interrupt is raised, the instruction which is in the execute stage will be completed, complete its execution, and then it is going to, the processor is going to fill the pipeline with the ISR instruction. So this is what the pipeline executing characteristics you need to remember. Okay, so this completes pipeline. Hope you have understood what actually pipeline is. It speeds up the execution. Pipelining is nothing but overlapped instruction execution. In simple terms, you can say it is overlapped instruction execution. ARM7 uses 3-stage pipeline, ARM9 uses 5-stage pipeline, ARM10 uses 6-stage pipeline. Okay? With this, it increases the instruction throughput, but the system latency will also increase as the length of the pipeline increases. So this is what you need to remember. With need diagram and example of the 3-stage pipeline, 3 instruction sequence of your choice you can take. You can specify the cycles and fetch, decode, execute stages you can show. As I have shown in that diagram, I'll share it. In any instruction of your choice you can choose, and you can explain the 3-stage pipeline of ARM7. And the pipeline executing characteristics, the 5 pipeline executing characteristics you need to just remember. Okay. Coming to the next topic, this is the last topic we are going to discuss in this unit. This will complete your first unit, exception, interrupts, and vector. Three small topics we have left out, that is core extensions, that is in addition to the processor core. So the other chips that are required, that is the core extensions, and ARM processor family need to be discussed, and LPC2148 microcontroller features, architectural features we have to discuss. So that will complete your unit 1. At this point, you can say unit 1 we have completed with this last topic. If time permits, at the end, we'll discuss, or I may share the lecture video if possible for those 3 small topics. Okay. Anyway, I'll share the material. You can go through it. Later on, we can discuss. Since we need to also parallelly execute the lab programs, we'll be moving on to the third unit of your lab syllabus in the coming classes. Okay. So this is the last topic in unit 1. This completes your unit 1. That is exceptions, interrupts, and vector table. Okay. So what happens when an exception or interrupt occurs? So that is, the processor is going to suspend the normal execution, and it starts loading the instruction from the exception vector table. So what do you mean by this vector table? So vector means it is address. So once the interrupt or exception occurs, the processor is going to get the address. So once from that address an instruction is fetched, so it will be normally a branch instruction to branch the control or to branch to a specific ISR. So for that, an instruction address will be stored in the vector table. So vector table, it is the space in the memory which will be having addresses. So what address that vector table contains is branch instruction address. Upon execution of that branch instruction, the processor will go for executing the ISR. So ISR instructions will be fetched one by one and it will be executed, and there will be a special return instruction will transfer back the control to the that is the normal function, to resume the execution once the ISR is completed. So remember, whenever exception occurs, normal execution will be suspended and ISR will be serviced, for which processor is going to load the branch instruction. Upon execution of that branch instruction, control gets transferred to the ISR, and one by one the ISR instruction will be fetched for execution. And as I have already mentioned, the in ARM there are 7 interrupts or exceptions. So these are the 7 interrupts or exceptions for which these are the vectors or addresses associated with these 7 interrupts or exceptions. One is the reset vector. This is the location of the first instruction executed by the processor when power is applied. So when reset, that is when the processor enters into reset mode, that is the supervisor mode. So the processor will enter the supervisor mode when a reset interrupt occurs. So then that means once the power is applied to the processor or once the processor is reset, in that case it is going to enter the supervisor mode. Okay, where the processor is going to execute some maybe the BIOS routines to initialize. That means some initialization code will be executed. Uh, that code where you will find is, that is the starting address. So that we are finding from the reset vector. So in the vector table, reset vector is taken. The processor is going to execute a branch instruction with that reset vector, so that the control gets transferred to the ISR, which contains some initialization code to reset the processor. Okay. So coming to the undefined instruction vector, this vector is used. So this address is used when the processor cannot decode the instruction. You know, the undefined processor mode. When the processor enters an undefined mode, so when undefined instruction interrupt occurs or exception occurs, where the processor is going to make use of this undefined instruction vector. When actually this happens is an instruction which is not being implemented in the processor. As I already told, the instruction, it may be intended for the co-processor, assuming that in the system, in the embedded system, co-processor is also existing. Some set of instructions might have been written, but once the core processor is not existing in that, and if that instruction is decoded by the ARM processor, in that case, it is going to enter into undefined mode. Okay. Coming to software interrupt vector, SWI instruction, what I told. So this vector is used when SWI instruction is executed. In that case, processor is going to enter supervisor mode, and this is usually used to invoke operating system routines. So reset vector and software interrupt vectors, these are used to enter into supervisor mode. So whenever the power is applied to the processor or whenever SWI instruction is executed, processor enters supervisor mode. Okay, and reset vector is used when we apply the power to the processor, and software interrupt vector is used when SWI instruction is executed. Coming to the other two, that is prefetch abort and data abort vectors. So these are used to enter into abort mode. Okay, so once the processor is in the abort mode, it is going to execute the ISR. When this vector is used to execute that appropriate ISR is when the processor is attempting to fetch an instruction from the address without correct access permission. There is unsuccessful access to the instruction in the memory. Prefetch abort takes place. Data abort, again unsuccessful access to the data. So without correct access permission, so if the instruction attempts to access the data, then data abort vector is used. So prefetch abort vector and data abort vector are used to enter to make the processor enter abort mode. So these addresses from the vector table are used for entering into abort mode. Okay, prefetch is with respect to unsuccessful access of the instruction. Data abort is with respect to unsuccessful access to the data. Okay. Next is with respect to hardware interrupts, interrupt request vector and fast interrupt request vectors are used. And you know that even though interrupt occurs through the external device, and you know there are two hardware interrupt levels in ARM, that is interrupt request level and fast interrupt request level. Even though there is an interrupt, okay, when actually this interrupts will be enabled is if the I bit and F bit in the CPSR, if they are zero, if their status are zero, then only this interrupt, the external interrupt will be considered. Okay, So interrupt request vector, it is used by the external hardware to interrupt the normal execution flow of the processor. Fast interrupt request vector is used for hardware requiring fast response time. The high priority interrupts which are to be executed at a faster rate, in that case fast interrupt request vector is used. Okay, but remember, if even though interrupt is raised using FIQ or IRQ, if I bit or F bit in the CPSR status are 1, that these interrupts will be disabled. So they will be masked, what we say. Masked bits. In CPSR, 6th and 7th bit, they are called as interrupt mask bits. If their bit status is 1, then the interrupt will be disabled. If their bit status is 0 and if external interrupt occur, then only that interrupt will be serviced. So how it is serviced? It is going to execute an ISR. And remember, in general, processor will be executing, will be doing its normal execution. If an interrupt or exception occurs, it has to enter to the appropriate processor mode, and during that, once it enters that processor mode, that means it is going to execute an ISR. To handle that request, it is going to execute an interrupt service routine. Okay, and which vectors, what address being used by the processor to switch over to those ISRs. So that is maintained in the vector table. Okay, so that's what we are seeing in this slide, the vector table. And few processors, they may use the memory address 0x0, that is 8 zeros. From this address, a vector table may be stored. Or a few processors, they may use high address in the memory, that is 0x4fs followed by 4 zeros. So the processor may use either low address, the starting address, to store the vector table where each entry is a 4 byte entry, or it may use this higher address to store the vector table. The vector table consists of addresses. So if any particular interrupt occurs, so it just fetches that address, and that is, it takes the address from the vector table so that it executes a branch instruction, which will transfer the control to the ISR. Okay, so this is the vector table, uh, which you can remember easily. It's not a problem since it is in sequence. Only you think the order you have to remember. First column, you're seeing exception or interrupt. Second, there's a shorthand representation of these interrupts. 7 interrupts are there, and this is the low address range and high address range where vector table is stored. Reset vector, the address is 0000, and as I told, this is actually not the ISR starting address. If it were to be ISR starting address, then the next vector should have been started at some other address. But you can see undefined instruction, the vector address is 4. So that means reset vector, it is taking only 4 byte. Undefined instruction, it is taking 4 byte. Software interrupt is taking 4 byte. So each is taking just 4 byte. That means 32-bit instruction is written for transferring the control to the ISR. So from this vector table, what you'll get is a branch instruction address. Once that branch instruction is executed, control gets transferred to the ISR. So this thing here, since we cannot predict what will be the length of the ISR, how many instructions are written in the ISR, how much memory space has to be left for each of the ISRs. So ISRs may be residing somewhere in the memory. So we need to just branch to that ISR. So only the branch addresses, if you are having in the vector table, that is sufficient. Upon that corresponding interrupt or that is exception, a branch instruction will be executed so that it transfers the control to the ISR. So that's why each address is just 4 byte. You can see reset vector address, you find it is 000. Undefined instruction, the address you find at 04. Software interrupt at 8. Prefetch abort, it is C. And data abort, it is 10H. Reserve, this next 4 byte, it is reserved for future use. It is not defined. Okay, 14H. And next IRQ, it is 18H and 1C. In sequence, you just keep on adding 4 to this address. 0, 4, 8, multiples of 4. It is simple. The address is multiple of 4 you are seeing. 0, 4, 8, 12, 16. In decimal, it is representation you are seeing in the table is in hexadecimal. Okay. And at the last, in the last column, what you are seeing is high address. Vector table, in some processor, it may be stored at the starting address 0. where the vector table is stored. If it is stored at the higher address, it will be starting at address that is 4f followed by 4 zeros, and rest is multiple of 4. 0, 4, 8, C, 10, 14, 18, 1C. And what important thing you can note in this vector table is the last interrupt is fast interrupt request. So that means after this fast interrupt request, there are no other interrupts. So that means fast interrupt request can be written. The ISR can be written at from address 1C itself, so that it need not execute a branch instruction to transfer the control to the ISR. This also speeds up the execution of fast interrupt request service routine. So that's why the name fast interrupt request. So one thing, it doesn't, the register contents need not be saved if the ISR is using R8 to R12 registers. That way also speeds up the ISR execution. That is, at a faster rate, the interrupt request will be serviced using fast interrupt request. And ISR can reside, FIQ ISR, it can reside at address 1C. So after this, since there are no other interrupts, directly it can start with the first instruction in the ISR and it can continue the execution. So this is about the exception, interrupts, and vector table. So processors may use lower address or higher address to store the vector table. So this is the address for each of these 7 interrupts. That is lower address and higher address. And these are the 7 exceptions or interrupts: reset, undefined, undefined instruction, software interrupt, prefetch abort, data abort, interrupt request, and fast interrupt request. So this reset and software interrupt, these two exceptions are going to switch over the processor mode to supervisor mode. Undefined instruction will switch over the processor mode to undefined mode. Prefetch abort and data abort, they are going to switch over the mode to abort mode. Interrupt request will switch the processor mode to interrupt request mode, and FIQ interrupt will switch over the processor mode to fast interrupt request mode. And these are the vectors for each of these interrupts. These are the vector address you are seeing. For reset, it is 00, and high address is 4f followed by 40. For undefined instruction, 4 and 4f followed by 40, and so on. Okay, so this is easy to remember. Just the last one you can still better you can remember, that is fast interrupt request, where ISR can start from this address itself, so that additional branch instruction need not be executed. Okay, so this is about exceptions, interrupts, and vector table. So in today's class, we discussed about that is the pipeline, okay, and also the exception, interrupts, and vector. So we have 7 processor modes and 7 interrupts. It is not that these 7 interrupts will make the processor enter 7 different modes. Just remember, user mode and system mode doesn't require any interrupt or exception to enter. They are auto invoke. Rest other modes, they require an exception or interrupt to enter. So these are the 7 interrupts or exceptions. Reset and software interrupt will make the processor enter supervisor mode. Undefined instruction will enter make the processor enter undefined mode. Date prefetch abort and data abort into abort mode. Interrupt request to interrupt request mode, and fast interrupt request to fast interrupt request mode. Okay. Hope this is clear, whatever we had discussed in today's class. So in the afternoon class, don't miss the afternoon class. We will be discussing, since Saturday is a holiday, May 1st, it is general holiday, May Day it is. We shall have the discussion on, anyway it is tutorial class in the afternoon. We shall discuss the next 2 lab syllabus program in the afternoon class, plus the tutorials. So this is what I have planned for today's afternoon class at 3 o'clock. Kindly don't miss it. So later on it will be difficult for you to understand the lab syllabus program. So kindly all of you attend the afternoon class at 3 o'clock. Okay. And keep updating observation, and I'll by today evening I'll share you the template for recording the lab syllabus programs output. So this is what the format you have to follow in your observation book and in your record book for writing lab syllabus program. For practice program, and a few of you asked whether to write the practice programs in observation. Yes, you have to. So for that sake only, we are giving you all these lab programs, lab 1, lab 2, lab 3, and lab 4 programs I have given. For each lab, I am wasting my time, and I am preparing the questions so that you can get familiarized with the mnemonics. Okay, kindly utilize it. all the practice programs you try to analyze and try to execute and record the output before execution and after execution. So whatever the registers you have used, each register status before and after execution you have to record for the practice programs in the record book. Once the execution in the lab is completed, so that is the lab cycle program execution is completed, only those lab syllabus programs you have to write it in the record book. And in the observation and record, the template to be used to record the output for lab syllabus programs, I'm going to share by today evening in the class group, okay, in the WhatsApp group. Kindly go through that accordingly for all the lab cycle programs. Follow that table to record the output. Okay, with these instructions, I'll stop this class. We'll continue at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and this completes your first unit. In the next class on Tuesday, we'll be starting with unit 3, which is instruction set of ARM. Okay. Yes, I'll stop here. Thank you.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, I see that you are recording, ma'am. Could you please upload this to Google Drive and send us a link?
Come again.
Ma'am, as you are recording the class, ma'am, could you please upload it to
Yeah.
Google Drive and send us the link, ma'am?
What I have to upload?
Upload this recorded video of the class to the Google Drive so that I can rewatch the class again. Like, I want to rewatch this class, ma'am. That's why I'm asking.
Okay. Okay. I'll do it. Hmm? Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.